Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Iryna Vereschchuk. The deputy head of the Ukrainian President's office has voiced concerns over Poland walking back social aid for Ukrainians living in the country. Iryna Vereschchuk added that Ukraine has to prepare a social support system for those returning to Ukraine.
According to Vereschchuk, the elderly, people with disabilities, single mothers, and other vulnerable groups have been left behind by recent restrictions in Poland. These include a veto by Polish President Karol Nawrocki last month on extending certain social programs for Ukrainians. As a result, child benefits will only be available to Ukrainians actually employed in Poland. As a result of the clampdown on social benefits, the former Ukrainian deputy prime minister said Kyiv would need to bolster its social support system for returnees. This includes extra housing and social, humanitarian, and medical aid.
At least 3 people were killed and 4 more wounded after the Russian army struck multiple regions of Ukraine, including Kyiv, Zaporizhzhia, and Sumy. At the same time, Russian authorities reported that Ukrainian drones struck occupied Crimea, killing 3 and wounding 16.
In Zaporizhzhia, emergency services recovered the body of a woman from the rubble left after the drone struck a residential building, at the same time damaging nearby cars. All in all, 15 apartment buildings, 10 houses and several non-residential facilities were damaged across the city. Meanwhile, in the Ukrainian capital, a Russian UAV struck a high-rise building and a private house, injuring a man and sparking a fire. In Sumy, Russian drones also hit a high-rise, wounding 1 person. At the same time, Russian authorities reported that Ukrainian drones struck the luxurious Foros resort in occupied Crimea. According to local official Sergei Aksyonov, 3 people were killed, 60 more wounded, and several facilities were damaged in the attack.
Overnight, a fire broke out at an electrical substation in Russia's Krasnodar region after a drone attack. According to regional authorities, the fire did not cause any casualties and began after drone wreckage crashed into the substation.
While Russian officials have not disclosed the full extent of the damage, Ukrainian Telegram media channels are saying that the substation was hit by drones at least 5 times. Furthermore, overnight Russian Telegram channels reported multiple explosions across the region. The strikes prompted authorities to temporarily suspend operations of the Sochi airport, disrupting 20 flights. The Krasnodar region, located just east of occupied Crimea, has become a common target of Ukrainian drones, as the region's infrastructure is critical for Russia's air operations in the Black Sea.
The Estonian Foreign Ministry has announced that the UN Security Council will meet on Monday to discuss Russia's recent breach of Estonian airspace over the Baltic Sea. 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets entered Estonian airspace last Friday, staying there for 12 minutes before departing.
Tallinn says the Russian jets entered its airspace without permission, while Moscow denies any violation. The Estonian Foreign Ministry called the incident a blatant, reckless and flagrant violation in a social media post announcing the Security Council meeting. This is the first time in over 30 years that Estonia has requested an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. Ukraine has submitted a request to South Korea, which currently holds the presidency of the Council, to attend the meeting and present its perspectives on the issue, according to the country's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha.
According to retired U.S. Army Europe Commander General Ben Hodges, Russian jets circling over Estonia for 12 minutes wasn't a mistake, it was a test. In an interview with TVP World, the former top military official warned these deliberate probes are meant to expose NATO's weaknesses, and that only a strong and visible response will deter Moscow from pushing further.
It's not an incursion, it's not just an airspace violation. That was an operation, a Russian operation to launch 21 drones that landed all inside Poland, or the 3 Russian aircraft that were flying around inside Estonia for about 12 minutes. These were not 3 pilots that were lost. This was a deliberate probe of our defenses to see how we would respond, how quick we would be, And I think what they're finding is that we still have not figured out how to stop these things. And so the consequences could be shoot down drones, even shoot down an aircraft, as our Turkish allies did back several years ago, or maybe an asymmetric response, some sort of a very significant response against, let's say, Shadow Fleet vessels in the Baltic Sea each time launches an operation into Allied airspace.
Polish Minister of Defense Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz has announced that the militaries of Poland and Sweden have begun the first ever Gotland Sentry exercises. The official added that the drills are a result of the defense cooperation agreement signed between the two parties earlier this month.
Poland and Sweden together for the security of the Baltic Sea. We are commencing the Gotland Sentry exercise, the first ever joint effort of this type by Poland and Sweden. This is the result of the defense cooperation agreement signed on September 2nd this year. The document covers, among other efforts, joint operations in the Baltic Sea as well as cooperation in the field of defense technologies.
The European Union is preparing its 19th package of sanctions on Russia, aimed at tightening pressure over Moscow's war in Ukraine. The measures will not include a ban on Russian citizens entering Europe, though, sparking many concerns.
A ban on Russian LNG, tighter controls on banks, and possible tariffs on Russian oil delivered via the Druzhba pipeline. These are the measures which will be included in the EU's latest 19th sanctions package against Russia. Surprisingly, the package will not include a ban on Russian citizens entering Europe.
From the economic perspective, we should welcome Russian tourists in Europe, and the reason for that is, it's cynical, but it's obvious. When Russians come to Europe, they spend their money. They spend their money and they don't really get anything valuable in return.
The Russian opposition welcomed the decision, and so did Yulia Navalny, the wife of late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who said that she appreciates that the European Commission made a distinction between, quote, ordinary Russians and the regime. But experts point out that the other side of the coin must also be considered.
It doesn't happen often, but it does happen once in a while that basically Russian assassins and spies and other agents of Russian government enter the EU under tourist visas, usually under fake persona, and they can enter the EU and travel freely unwatched.
Ukraine also expressed concern, stressing that not just Russian President Vladimir Putin should be held accountable for the ongoing war, but also Russian society.
Russians willingly or unwillingly are supporting the regime and supporting the war right now. So making sure that it is not that this feeling of that you will be punished for launching the war, it should be instilled. And this is why there should have been a ban on Russian citizens into Europe.
The package must now be approved by all 27 EU member states. These include Moscow-friendly Hungary and Slovakia, who still rely on Russian oil imports and blocked EU sanctions packages against Russia in the past. The two countries have already expressed their readiness to block the new package of restrictions, and the European Commission has announced its plans to unfreeze approximately 550 million euros in subsidies for Hungary to change its mind on the issue. But will it? This remains to be seen.
Russia has come up with a plan to interfere in the upcoming elections in Moldova, disrupting the country's path towards the European Union and EU membership, according to Bloomberg.
The goal of the Russian plan, according to documents reviewed by Bloomberg, is to undermine the chances of President Maya Sandu's Party of Action and Solidarity in the September 28th vote and ultimately see her removed from power. The strategy was finalized this spring and is coordinated directly by the Kremlin. Moldova, a former Soviet republic, has been a battleground between pro-European and pro-Russian political forces. The upcoming parliamentary elections come less than a year after Moldovans voted in favor of joining the European Union by a narrow margin in a nationwide referendum, which was overshadowed by accusations of Russian election interference.
Austrian oil, gas and chemicals group OMV has fired a senior executive over allegations of spying for Russia. A Russian diplomat was summoned to the Austrian Foreign Ministry in response. According to Austrian news magazine Profil, The OMV employee allegedly attracted attention through meetings with a Russian diplomat suspected by Western intelligence services of being an agent of Russia's Domestic Intelligence Service, or the FSB. OMV said it had terminated the employee's contract effective immediately. When asked about the matter, the Austrian Foreign Ministry said it was aware of the allegations and the pending criminal proceedings against the Russian diplomat. The chargé d'affaires of the Russian embassy in Vienna has been summoned to the Austrian Foreign Ministry, and a request has been made to strip the diplomat of immunity. And now we're moving to Italy for something for the sailors in our audience. Yachts and boats are currently on display at the 65th Genoa International Boat Show. This year's event, highlighting 23 new shipyards and 123 new vessels, features over 1,000 boats and exhibitors from 45 countries from around the globe. And that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and please stay with us here on TVP World.